Sorry. Okay. Hi, Doug. How are you today?
Good. How are you doing?
Good. Thanks for coming to see me again. You getting out there enjoying the nice weather today?
I'm trying to.
I know, except you're stuck in here, huh?
Yeah.
Well, we'll make it pretty fast. So we met twice and had our recent conversation on the phone, and so far, you know that the city's attorney has offered $33,000 for the purchase of the easement, and last we spoke, you were wanting $50,000 for the easement. So today we're just going to go through the alternative options and weigh kind of the pros and cons, and hopefully reach a decision about whether we want to accept the offer. So since we last met, last spoke on the phone, has anything changed? Any new objectives? Any new things arisen?
Nope, I'm still after that 50,000.
Okay, and I see that you're here alone today. So just to be sure, are you making the decision alone, or are you gonna need to go home and think it over?
I've got full authority.
It's all you. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So let's see. So we've spoken about. You want $50,000. City's offering $33,000. So one of our options. I'm just gonna quickly go through the options, and then we can kind of talk about each of them and see what you're thinking. So we have an option to accept the offer that they're making of the $33,000. We can continue to negotiate, although there are a few concerns about that, but we can talk about them. We can go to trial, which we have discussed that a little bit. And then another option would be to try and engage in mediation with the city to resolve this outside of court, but potentially get a different option than what's currently on the table. So is there one that you're kind of thinking is just, which option would you like to discuss first? Is there one that you're leaning especially towards or especially against?
Well, I'd like to choose the option that would get me 50,000.
Okay.
I've kind of read up on some. I read a book about a corner business in New York City, where the party waited and waited and waited to sell the easement, and eventually they got more than what they were asking for.
Okay.
So I don't know if that means we negotiate more, or another thing. I mean, I'm ready to go to trial.
Okay.
I really like acting. I think I'd be great on the stand.
Okay. Well, let's talk about going to trial. Since that sounds like kind of what you think is favorable or what you're leaning towards right now. We spoke about some of the concerns with this. The land has been valued at let's see here, has been valued at $35,000. That's the market value of the land in the neighborhood. So that number is pretty much that's the general number that we've been given for what the market price of the land is. If we go to trial, we'll need to hire an expert to reevaluate the land to get the number that we're going to present and to see what the land is appraised for. It's likely going to be within $1,000 of that number.
Okay.
So you're likely going to see $34,000 or $36,000. And I know that's disappointing to hear probably because you do have an attachment to this land and you want the $50,000. Can you explain to me a little bit about why you think the $50,000 is a fair price?
I mean, it's just I've lived here for so long, and I feel like it's just a lowball offer at $33,000. I mean, the city wants my land; they should have to pay for it.
Right.
And I mean, it's just I guess it's just because I've lived there for so long, and I'm fearful that they're gonna put this bike path through my backyard, and then it's gonna get trashed by people, throwing their drinks or whatever in my yard. So
right.
I mean, that's an added cost to me too. So I mean,
yeah. So you're kind of thinking that extra $15,000 is for future problems that you might encounter, or
Well, that and I guess my cash flow is kind of not too great right now,
okay,
so we could really use the money.
okay. So if I'm understanding you correctly, the extra $15,000 is based off sentimental value, potential future costs associated with the easement, and let's see, potential future costs, and you are kind of seeking a little bit of a profit off of this. Okay.
And my wife has recently been diagnosed with diabetes, so that's going to be another added cost in there.
Okay. And so would you say that the profit and the recent health changes are probably the overwhelming reason why you're valuing this land more?
I think so, and I mean, I've been fighting this since the beginning, so
Okay.
it's been something that I've been opposed to since the city introduced it.
Right, okay. Well, I think that all of those reasons are really great reasons. When we have an object, we value that more than something someone else might value it at. And so that's kind of something that's difficult for us to understand or even accept. A lot of times it's just the fact that you don't see eye to eye with the other person. You value it what you value it, and they value what they value. And what you're saying to me, none of that is wrong. I mean, you have every right to feel the way that you feel and value these things in the way that you do. So since you said that your number one goal of going to trial is probably to make a little bit of a profit and get this increased number, I want to compare that to what the costs of going to trial are going to be. So we've spoken that it would probably be at least $11,000 to try the case, and that is based on $8,000 probably for attorney fees because it would take around 40 hours of preparation, and our current fee arrangement is $200 an hour, as you know, and then the expert would probably cost around $2,500, which would be necessary for our case. Yeah, so things are going to get pricey on that side. So that's just something as we're going through, something to think about. You'll be making you're wanting that $15,000 extra profit, but we just have to remember to weigh that against the red on the sheet. Right. So let's talk about trial and name some, now that we've kind of talked about the background of it, name some pros and cons. So you can approach that however you'd like and just throw them out there and I'll organize them.
Okay, one thing that I know from speaking to someone whose sister works for the city, I guess she told me that the attorney's office is hardly able to handle a trial.
Okay.
So I guess they're kind of understaffed. They don't have a whole lot of money, so it would be my impression that them paying me an additional $17,000 is actually going to save them money, as opposed to going to do this long trial.
Okay.
So that's one. Another, I kind of just feel like the lowball offers. It's kind of insulting for what I want for the land. And then I've always enjoyed acting, and I think I would enjoy going to court, so I can tell everyone, the jury, that what a disaster the hiking and biking trail would be.
Okay. And do you see any cons about going to trial?
I do. Obviously, that $11,000 figure is, a lot of money.
Right.
And from what you told me, I mean, it sounds like that expert is just doesn't sound like he's gonna really change the value of my land. I mean,
right.
Unless he's gonna lie for us. And then, I mean, probably the biggest factor that's kind of making me second guess trial is that my spouse doesn't want to go to court.
Okay.
Obviously, she's got diagnosed with diabetes and she doesn't need the extra stress. And also, my children are in high school, and I think that would be pretty embarrassing for them, especially since they've supported the bike path.
Okay.
Since the city introduced it. So those are kind of the cons. And obviously, in my mind, family always comes first. So.
Okay. Yeah. So I understand why you have a really difficult decision. Let's move to talking about these other options, and we can come back and kind of compare your pro and con lists overall. So in accepting the offer, what advantages and disadvantages do you see there?
I guess the biggest advantage is that it's done, and there's going to be no additional expenses, no more attorney's fees.
Right.
And I get rid of this added stress, because right now I just want to focus on taking care of my wife.
Right.
Disadvantages, like I said, I feel like it's undervalued. Things I've read kind of seem to say that $50,000 is fair.
Okay.
But then again, I mean, we always run the risk of if we don't accept it, then we're gonna end up in court, and I'm gonna end up paying all those additional fees.
Right. Okay.
And like I said, we're house rich but cash poor.
Okay.
So I mean, the cash right now would be nice.
Right. Okay. So let's see, cash now. Okay. Continuing to negotiate. I threw that on the table as an option, and it is an option, but in approaching that, I want to let you know that the city's attorney I've worked with quite a few times, and she has a tendency to really stand her ground when she makes an offer. So I know that you want to resolve this, as you just said, you want it to be done. You don't want to stress about it. So that is one concern I have, that this may just prolong and not get you much return, because she's likely to, through mediation or negotiating, she's likely to not budge very much. So do you have any thoughts about mediating and negotiating?
I mean, the only way I would be up for that is if there's a possibility that we can get more money.
Okay.
But I mean, if they're going to be set at this $35,000 mark, I mean, is there any chance that we can, get an additional $2,000? Like if we were to make a counter offer.
Okay.
So I actually get the fair market value instead of $2,000 under.
Right. Well, there is always a chance, but I'm also not sure that if we propose that she's not going to go file the suit the next day. So in thinking about that, you need to decide whether the extra $2,000 is worth that risk. That trial will ensue, the offer will be off the table, and then you're looking at an $11,000 expense.
Okay.
So that's just something to consider. After talking about these things, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't want to spend a whole bunch more money.
Right.
I mean, $33,000 is a decent amount of money. It's just not what I wanted, but I also don't want to go forward and have to pay for experts and stuff like that if they're not going to be particularly useful to our case.
Right.
I don't know. I really want to hold out, but I know that there's much more additional costs in that thing, and my wife, I think, is ready to just put this behind us.
Right.
So I mean, where I stand right now is I'm kind of torn between either negotiating more or waiting for trial and accepting the offer.
Okay.
I mean, based on what you've told me, I think maybe accepting the city's offer right now might be the best option.
Okay. And I want to be clear. I'm here to advocate for you. I think that you should make the decision that you feel most comfortable making. If you want to accept, I think that that's a great option, and we'll carry that through. But I mean, if you want to go to trial, I just want you to recognize the difficulties that we would be approaching. So, and also to put it into perspective, and if you decide to accept the offer, maybe to make you feel a little bit better about doing that, if you were going to buy a piece of land and it was valued at $35,000, you wouldn't necessarily want to pay $50,000.
Right.
You would probably turn around and say, "I'm not going to do that. The land's worth this amount, and that's the amount that I want to pay." And while it doesn't seem extremely fair, because you do have these connections to that land and these concerns and things going on in your personal life, sometimes stepping into the shoes of the other side helps to make a little more sense. So again, I think that, you know, you have your family concerns about this issue, and you said that those are an overwhelming concern for you. So, at the end of the day, what decision do you think you'll feel best making?
I mean, after talking with you about all the options and kind of the pros and cons, I think the best option, especially for my family, would be to accept the offer.
Okay.
Because I don't want to risk having to go to trial and paying all the additional money. Although I'm inclined to say that we should hold out for $50,000, but I don't foresee that happening, especially, you know, you kind of put it in perspective for me by me wanting to go out and buy land.
Well, and I know it's a very hard thing to do, and especially whenever you see the potential for $50,000. But sorry, are we? Okay, we're good. Sorry. I don't know. I'll just close it. Okay. So I think that that's a really good decision to make. And if you're comfortable doing that, then I will go forward with contacting the city's attorney. So is that your?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna settle for the $32,000.
Okay, and I think that that's a really good decision. You know, feel good about making that decision and understand the risks that are associated with the others. So going forward, I'll contact the city's attorney and let her know that you're willing to accept the offer, and I will contact you and let you know exactly what she responds. But for now, just sit tight, and do you have any questions today for me?
I'm guessing that there's gonna be some sort of contract put together.
Yes. I'll put together a contract, and that's after I speak with her and we get that done. I'll contact you, and you can come in and we'll go over it and sign that. And if you have any questions or concerns between now and the time I contact you, I will probably contact her later today to get the ball moving, so that you, like you said, you want this to be done final, so that we can do that. But just if you need any further, if you want to talk about it or you're having concerns or anything, give me a shout and we can go over more of what we've spoken about today. So,
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in to see me.
Thank you.